Welcome to Kat and Jess Talk the Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are talking about number 187, Platoon, which is a drama war film from 1986. This has an 8.1 on 357,933 votes. Our mystery line. So we are revealing the mystery line from Hotel Rwanda this week. And the line was, I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. And we actually did have someone get this one correct.
Oh.
The guy that we had talked about a few times ago, Amend the End. I don't know his real name, but you can find him on YouTube and Twitter. That's where we interact most of the time. Actually, whenever we do interact, it's either on YouTube or Twitter. So, but yeah, he did get that correct. So, congratulations, Mr. Amend the End.
And what's the movie?
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought I said it.
No.
That is from The Silence of the Lambs.
That is actually like the last line of the movie, too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I know that line anywhere.
And it's
like,
that movie, of course, is on our list, but it's super far away.
I know. It's worth it, though.
It is.
I'm like, it definitely needs to be on the list. So I'm glad it's there.
I agree. So, our new one. So, I've got light blue, purple, green, or red.
Green.
So the quote is, I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. So make sure to take your guesses on that one. That will be revealed in our episode, It Happened One Night. And don't forget to guess on our mystery line from... So the spoiler-free synopsis... Chris Taylor leaves his university studies to enlist in combat duty in Vietnam in 1967. Once he's on the ground in the middle of the battle, his idealism fades. Infighting in his unit between Staff Sergeant Barnes, who believes nearby villages are harboring Viet Cong soldiers, and Sergeant Elias, who has a more sympathetic view of the locals, ends up pitting the soldiers against each other as well as against the enemy.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Alright, so this is directed by Oliver Stone. He's also directed Natural Born Killers, Wall Street, and Alexander. And this stars Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, and Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. Those are like the big ones, like the top ones, but there are so many people in this movie. It's ridiculous.
So many.
And I think it's cool because we just got done, of course, with our Halloween event, and our very last movie that we did was A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is Johnny Depp's first movie, and then this also has Johnny Depp in it. It's not a very big role, but he is in it, which I thought was really cool. We've also got Candyman. I don't know the actor's name, but I recognized him from Candyman. We've got Forrest Whitaker. Then we've got the head doctor guy from Scrubs. I don't remember his name either, but I recognized him. We've just got so many people in this movie. I'm just like sitting there. I recognized probably 90% of the people in this movie.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, oh, you're just way younger.
Yeah. It was crazy how young everybody was. So, the ratings on this. IMDb, 35.2% of users rated this at an 8. On Metacritic, it has a 92%. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 88% on 66 critical reviews. So, two of the fresh. Michael Blauin. Although Platoon is not the easiest film to watch, it is one of the best at reminding us that the cinema is not always interested in evading or distorting history. sometimes it tells the truth.
I guess, yeah.
When one of the countries it's about doesn't want to produce the movie, of course it's telling the truth.
It is banned in that country, yeah.
And also, no American producers or companies wanted to produce it. This was produced in the UK because nobody wanted to produce it here. I did find that out. Because they didn't like the slander it was putting on America. I'm like, well, you should listen to your own people.
I'm like, we're not all sunshine and rainbows over here. Come on.
Yeah. Kathleen Carroll. This film is an act of courage. Stone, the gutsy writer-director, records in a devastating barrage of images the relentless horror and the senseless carnage experienced by far too many Americans in Vietnam. I feel like that should be far too many people in Vietnam, not just Americans.
Yeah, I feel like... Whoa. Yeah. I won't go there.
So, Too Rotten, Robert Stone. For a while, Platoon amazes. Its authenticity and dark dramatic tone promise a great deal, but the characters gradually disappear into formula and action into melodrama. Well, the characters disappear because they die, so...
Yeah.
And I can kind of agree with the action into melodrama because of the way it was shot. But I don't 100% agree with that. Just kind of I can see where he's coming from with the action into melodrama.
Yeah, I can see it too. Especially near the end part.
Yeah. So, David Sturritt. Oliver Stone tries ambitiously to capture the full horror and frenzy of combat in Southeast Asia, but his technical skill outstrips his insight. I don't know. I think he did a really good job of capturing it.
I think so. Yeah.
So I don't agree with that one. So the consensus, informed by director Oliver Stone's personal experiences in Vietnam, Platoon forgoes easy sermonizing in favor of harrowing, ground-level view of war. Bolstered by no-holds-barred performances from Charlie Sheen and Willem Dafoe. I don't know. Charlie Sheen's hair throughout the movie was just kind of bugging me.
Why? Why was it bugging you?
Because they're in the middle of the jungle and his hair's perfect.
It's
perfectly
gorgeous.
Floofed up, no. The only time it's not is when it's pouring rain.
Because it's raining.
Yeah. But even then, there was one time that it had started raining and their clothes were already soaked, but his hair was still perfectly positioned where he had it. His hair was just distracting me the whole movie.
Okay, Kat.
But I will agree, Willem Dafoe did a great job.
Oh, I love him.
So the money. The budget was $6 million. Its opening weekend, it made $241,080. Its gross was $138,530,565. And then internationally, it made $15,067 because it only opened in one other country, which was somewhere in Southeast Asia. I don't think it said the exact country, but it was somewhere in Southeast Asia. Then the worldwide total, $138,545,632. And its top lifetime gross rank is 426. So, for the awards, this won 4 Oscars, had 19 other wins, and 14 other nominations. But we're just going to talk about the Oscars, Golden Globes, and BAFTAs like we normally do with the ones that have a lot of awards. Because I don't feel like saying that many. So for the Oscars, this did win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Sound, and Best Film Editing. And I can definitely see why it won all of those.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't there, some, like, Best Supporting Actor nominations also? For Dafoe and Berenger?
Yes, nominations, but they didn't win. For the Golden Globes, this won Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director Motion Picture, and Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role in a Motion Picture, Tom Berenger. So I feel like Willem Dafoe was also nominated for that, but Tom Berenger beat him out.
They both had great performances, so
yeah.
It's kind of hard to choose.
I feel like it's just the fact that the amount of screen time, really, that they both get.
Okay, I'll give him that.
I feel like that's literally the only thing, because other than that, both of their performances were great. It's just a matter of screen time, I think, in my opinion. Because you get more of Berenger. That's the only thing I could think of a reason why. This won Best Direction and Best Editing. I can agree with both of those.
Oh, yeah.
And then this was inducted into the Online Film and Television Hall of Fame in 2015. So we were discussing this in our Nightmare on Elm Street one, and we think it has to be a 10-year-old movie before it's inducted in the Hall of Fame.
At least 10 years.
At least 10 years, because there's nothing younger than 10 years in the Hall of Fame. So, in case you were curious, I don't know what the real qualifications are, but...
We just guessed. I mean, because the 2019 list, the youngest one was, 2009 or something?
I think the
that's what you said.
Youngest one was 2008 for this 2019 list.
Okay.
So it was 11 years.
Close enough.
Yeah. But that's all for the awards. Initial thoughts?
I can go first.
Okay.
I just watched this recently. Had a snow day, so I had a chance to watch it. And I was thinking, I'm like, okay, so a war movie. I kind of knew what it was already about. And I was like, okay, I don't mind war movies. I'm okay with them. And I'm like, 2 hours. I'm like, okay, we'll see. It didn't seem like 2 hours to me. It was the pacing was really good with it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was like, I had to check. I was like, oh, there's that much left? Oh, okay, that's good. I didn't know that much time had passed. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's because if you don't know time passes, that means the story and, the movie is just so good that you're just engrossed into it.
Yeah.
I was like, I really did like this movie. I'm like, wow. I was like, I can see why this won Best Picture.
Yeah,
I really can. Too. I can. I mean, I was like, all right, Willem Dafoe. All right. Because I love him. And anything he's in. So, that was just, that always helped out. Oh, there's an actor you like in there. This is going to be much better now.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked it. We did. Good pacing. Really good acting. Especially, from Tom Berenger. I was like, I hate this dude.
And that's the cool thing about this movie. I always do, I do some research. And the reason they cast Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe in the roles that they were cast in is because it's opposite of what they normally play.
Oh, I know.
Willem Dafoe almost always plays the bad guy, so they were like, we want him to be a more respectable good guy type. And then Tom Berenger is almost always a good guy, so they wanted him to be in that reverse role of kind of a bad guy. And I think that they got to stretch their performances and show off something that they don't ever really get to show off, and I thought they both did an amazing job. Don't get me wrong, they're both great actors in their normal roles, but it was cool to see them put outside what they normally do and see them actually do really well on it.
I was like, I'm trying to think of a movie with Willem Dafoe that he's not a bad guy in.
The only other one that I can think of off the top of my head is Aquaman.
Life Aquatic. There it is. Life Aquatic.
Okay.
Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou. That's the one.
Yeah, I was like, the only one I could think of off the top of my head was Aquaman, and I'm just like, that's not a good example.
I was like, that's a good one for mine, actually, because he's not a bad guy at all in that.
Well, he's not a bad guy at all in Aquaman. It's just not a great movie. It's decent. Oh. It's just not a great movie, so that's why I was like, it's not a great example.
And Life Aquatic's awesome, so...
Well, there you go. So yeah, I watched this yesterday as well. And so I watched it. It was like 10:15 when it was over. And I actually really enjoyed it. I only checked the time a couple times because I was starting to get tired. So I wanted to see how much time I had left to see if I could finish it. And the first time I checked it, I was about halfway through. So I was like, you know what? I think I can do it. And then I was getting real tired, but I only had 15 minutes left the second time I checked it. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just finish it. But I have a hard time not falling asleep, so...
I know. It's like you put on a movie and then you fall asleep.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing anymore. The thing about this movie is, even though I was getting tired, it was interesting enough to keep me awake and make me want to finish it. Which is really saying something, because most of the time I'm just like, whatever, I'm gonna go to sleep now.
You're like, screw it.
It has to be something super interesting to make me not fall asleep while I'm watching it, reading it, participating in it. Whatever said activity or movie or book is, it has to be super interesting for me to not fall asleep. And I think this did a good job. Because I like sleep a lot, so... But I really liked the acting in it. Most of the cinematography was good. There was a few spots I was just like, And then I do have a few issues that I'll talk about later when we get to rating. But overall, I liked it quite a bit, so.
Boiler alert! Boiler alert! Boiler alert! Boiler alert! Boiler alert! Boiler alert!
Alright, that was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So, we're at this military base, and we've got some people coming in, and they look like new, like they haven't been there before. And then...
It's like fresh meat.
Yeah. And then we see some body bags of people who have obviously been out there fighting and didn't make it home. So then we get to see everybody heading through the jungle. There's lots of jungle in this movie.
There is.
It's set in the jungle. And it's actually funny because it's the Philippines jungle. It's not the jungle in Vietnam. If you didn't know that.
I did.
I didn't know that at first when I was watching it. But that's because I literally, that could be the Amazon for all I know.
I looked at some of the trivia before I started watching, so.
I didn't. I was just like, oh, jungle. Okay. But, so they're hiking through the jungle, all these soldiers and stuff. And there's quite a few of them, more than I was expecting there to be in this movie. I don't know why, but I was expecting it to be... Actually, I do know why. So every military show or almost every other military movie I've watched, and any military show I've watched, anytime they're out on missions, it's 4 or 5 of them. So that's what I was expecting from this, is 4 or 5 guys, but no. This is a ton of guys. There's 3 different groups of them, each with their own sergeant over them. But they're all in one big group.
Yeah.
So there's probably 15 at the beginning at least. Kind of somewhere in there. But so they come across this dead guy, and we get Chris, who is played by Charlie Sheen, sees the dead guy, and this is the first time, at least we can guess, this is the first time he's ever seen a dead body because he gets sick.
He throws up.
Yeah. So they call a medic over to help him.
And he's got bugs all over him, too, like ants.
Yeah, and they're helping him with that and the fact that he's sick. And then they're setting up their camp for the evening. And then we get Charlie Sheen narrating it. And sometimes I'm okay with narration, other times I'm not. But this one, it was actually done really well because it was like letters to grandma. So it was like what he would have been writing to his grandma. So I thought that the narration was done well and went with the theme rather than just kind of talking over the movie.
It's like, which can happen sometimes.
Yeah. And then, so they're talking about their ambush that they're planning because that's what they're going to do in the middle of the night is ambush the enemy troops. And so the 3 sergeants are talking and the lieutenant is talking, and they decide that Sergeant Elias, which is Willem Dafoe's character, his little crew is going to go out. So his, 4 or 5 men that he commands are going to go out and be, the ambush leaders, I guess. I don't really know anything about war, so...
It's like, I don't know much more than you do, so...
Yeah. I mean, I watch war shows and movies, but I don't really know anything about it. Sean's always telling me this, that, and the other about the military, and I'm like, that's cool. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's cool. But so they get all set up and everything, and it's, at this point, it's pouring down rain.
Pouring rain.
Right before, right when it starts pouring, or at least they insinuate it starts pouring, everybody's clothes are all wet, and then everybody's hair is all wet, except for Charlie Sheen. His hair is perfect. This is the first spot I noticed it. This is where it started bothering me. Because his hair wasn't soaked when it was, pouring rain, but then in the next shot, his hair is completely soaked. I'm like... Okay.
So that's just a continuation thing.
It's just his hair throughout the entire movie was just bothering me.
That could have been some editing there.
Yeah. But so they're sitting there, they're waiting and stuff, and so we get another kind of letter to grandma narration, and he's talking about how he doesn't want anybody to really know him. He wants to be more like how his dad was and his granddad, how they both went to war and they were kind of anonymous. That's what he wants. He doesn't want everybody knowing his name and stuff like that.
That's not the case, though.
Yeah. Not really. But so in the middle of the night, it ends up being Chris's turn to stay awake and watch for the enemy coming. So they give him the Claymore switch and tell him how to work it and tell him that he has to keep watch. So he's up keeping watch, and then he looks at his watch and it's Junior's turn. So he wakes Junior up and tells him that it's his shift, but Junior just kind of ignores him and goes back to sleep. And then Chris wakes up because of bug bites.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought they were.
Yeah, I think they're mosquitoes. It was hard to tell because, when you get bit by a mosquito, actually, when you get bit by pretty much any bug, it's going to turn red. And they were just kind of skin-colored. So I don't know what kind of bug it was, but my guess is mosquitoes, even though it wasn't the right color. I got bit by mosquitoes a lot when I was a kid. I mean, a lot.
I was like, I love how much detail you're looking for this. It's great.
I just noticed, there's certain things I noticed and I'm just like, they're nitpicky things, but that's the thing. Like, if it's nitpicky things I'm seeing, then that means the movie's actually really good. If I can just
Because you're paying
it.
that much attention.
Yeah. But so, of course, that wakes Chris up because he's getting bit by all these bugs, and he notices the enemy are like kind of really, really close to him. They're like sneaking up on him. And he's the only one awake. So he's like watching them, and they get super close, and he blows the claymore, and that wakes everybody up.
Yeah.
And then there's a little firefight. And so Chris gets hurt, but not like super bad, just kind of like a cut on his neck. But then the other guy, Gardner, I think his name was.
Yes.
His legs get blown off. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he don't make it.
No.
He dies.
Yeah. And they're like calling for the helicopter and stuff to get him picked up so they can take him to the hospital, but he doesn't make it that far. He dies before the helicopter can even be fully called, I guess. And then they're kind of taking a survey of the people that they had killed, and there's one guy who isn't quite dead yet, so they just shoot him. Kill him all the way.
Because why not?
Well, I mean, I didn't know, because, you know, they're all kind of wearing the same type of clothing, like all the dark green type military clothing, and it was really dark at that point, so I really didn't know if that was one of their people or one of the Vietnamese people, because I didn't look at his face. So I was like, it's either a mercy killing because they don't want him being in pain, or it's they hate him because they're fighting him.
Just finish the job, I guess.
Yeah, like one of those two. I didn't catch his face, so I don't know which one it is. But everybody's like yelling at Chris because he wasn't awake, and Junior's like blaming him, even though Junior was the one that was supposed to be awake.
Yeah, it's like, you're the one who's supposed to be on duty. Why are you giving him crap?
Yeah. And then Barnes gives this big, huge speech that I don't remember what it's about.
He just pretty much giving him all shit.
Yeah, that's what he does throughout this like entire movie, is just give everybody shit.
Yeah, he's kind of an asshole.
Which, I mean, he does it really well. He plays it really well, so.
Oh, completely. The
But-
scars help, too.
Yeah.
It's like
Scar's
he's got
really cool. It's got some good makeup on it.
some scars along his face.
And on his lip, too. Like, cuts into his lip on the top lip, which is... That can be hard to do.
Yeah, that's some... I would say that's some good makeup effects there.
Yeah.
I was like, that is really good blending in.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even tell. You're like... I thought for a minute, I was like, is he really that, like, disfigured? Then I'm like, oh no, he's not. Never mind. That's some good makeup.
I actually have a trivia for that. Because I love makeup. It's one of my favorite things about movies. They actually just used, it was like new technology at the time. It was like some sort of prosthetic glue is all they used for that scar. There's not even a real prosthetic. It's just prosthetic glue is what they used for it. And it originally, when they started shooting, took 3 hours to put on, but then by the time they got done shooting, it took 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I was just saying that now because I was going to forget, so.
I was like, I did read that too.
I don't remember where I saw that, but I was probably looking at the makeup person and saw it.
Maybe.
But Chris tries to say that it was Junior's turn to keep watch, but nobody's believing him. So they're all blaming the ambush and two guys in their platoon dying on him.
Even though it would have been more people if he had not done anything. So, You're welcome.
True. So then they get to base camp, and Sergeant O'Neill takes Chris and 2 other newer guys. Well, not even really newer guys, because they're talking about how they only have less than 100 days left or something. But 2 other guys and Chris have to go clean out the outhouses.
Yeah. One of them is King, and that's Keith David's character. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, Keith David. Oh my god, he's a great actor. Just has such an iconic voice.
Yeah, he does.
And I was like, we saw him in Princess and the Frog.
Yes. I didn't understand quite what they were doing at first, but then I noticed it. They were going to burn all of the poop. Just so you know. They were going to burn it.
Burning shit. Nice.
The 2 guys that are already, like, have been there a while, Keith David's character, King, and then the other guy, I don't remember his name, but they are talking about how far into their deployment they are, and, like, how you should, like, kind of giving tips to Chris on how he should count his days, really. Because the one guy has 92 days left or something like that. And then they're talking about, like, how they got there. And Chris is like, well, I volunteered. And they both think he's crazy because he volunteered.
He's like, I was in college, but I dropped out and decided to volunteer. They're like, what?
Yeah.
You're crazy, man.
Yeah. Then it jumps to, like, this hangout spot. And it's, like, in the evening. And they're just kind of hanging out, having fun. And in the barracks or not the barracks, but the little spot that Charlie goes into, they're getting high off of all kinds of things. Pretty sure most of it's pot, but there's gotta be something else in there.
Pot, maybe some heroin.
Probably, you know. Just whatever they can really get their hands on at that point in time.
Drinking. I mean,
yeah.
It's just a fun night.
And then the ones that are in the barracks, so like Bunny, who is a douche in this movie, and then Junior is in there as well in the barracks, and a few other guys. They're all drinking. So there's the group that's smoking and getting high, and then there's the group that's drinking and getting drunk. They're like segregated themselves. I mean, they really did, because they don't really interact too much. At least when they're doing those activities. Like, when they're out in the jungle and doing all that stuff, they, of course, interact. But when they're at base, they don't really interact too much. But the lieutenant comes in to the barracks, and he's just kind of greeting everybody. And it's Lieutenant Wolf. And he kind of seems out of place in there. Like, everybody talks to him, but they don't really seem to want him in there. And he leaves, and then Lieutenant O'Neill is, like, talking about how he doesn't think Sergeant O'Neill is talking about how he doesn't think the lieutenant will make it. He's, like, got a gut feeling for these things and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. But then they're in the jungle again. It's, like, the next day or so. And they find this camp. They come across it, and it's very recently abandoned. Like, the fire's still warm. You can tell that the people that were there were literally just there. And so everybody's kind of checking it out, looking for information and stuff on where these people might have gone. And Elias goes into this, like, little tunnel thing, and he's following it along. And he comes out on the other side, and there's this little tent, and it's got, like, a medic camp, or a medic bed, where somebody was obviously bleeding a lot. And then he sees a dead guy. And then, he gets in another part of the tunnel and keeps going further, and then he comes out, and he kills a couple guys. Because there was, I think, 2 of them in there that were alive that were trying to run away. I think.
I don't remember the one, but there might have been more.
I say it was either 1 or 2, but I know he kills at least one of them. And then, while the other people are checking out the rest of the camp, these 2 guys are in this tent, and they find an ammo box that's got, like, maps and pertinent information in it. And so the one guy, he's like, oh, let's just go. This isn't a good idea. We need to just get out of here. That's not important. And then the guy that's, like, digging through the box is like, nah, this is important. We're going to take it with us. So he closes it and picks it up and then just explodes.
Boom! Isn't, like, the one guy that, like, he's, like, comes out and he's just, like, torn up like no other.
Yeah.
Of course he dies.
Definitely dead, yeah. And they're getting ready to head to some other area or like follow tracks or something like that. But they notice that someone named Manny, one of their guys named Manny, is missing. And so they are like shouting for him, trying to find him. And then they walk down the river a little ways and they find him dead with his throat slit, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
that's what I thought too. His throat slit and like a piece of like paper or something next to it.
Yeah, something. And it said something on it, but I didn't catch what it said, so I don't know if it was in English or if it was in Vietnamese. I don't know, but it said something on the paper. But then they make their way to this little small village. And it's like up on this hill above the little river. And they turn around and see that there's a guy running for it. And so Barnes shoots him. And then they tear through this little village, making everyone come outside and pulling people out of little holes in the ground and tearing through all of these people's stuff. And Chris finds in one of the little huts a hole, and there's 2 people hiding in the hole. There's like an older lady and then kind of a younger guy who only has one leg. And so Chris starts giving the one-legged guy a really hard time because he's just kind of grinning. I don't know why he was grinning, he just was. But so Chris starts like shooting at his feet.
He might have been a little slow in the head.
That's a good possibility.
That was just a guess I had. Because I don't think the man was like understanding like his tone or anything like that.
Well, there is a language barrier there, so...
Yeah, but the lady was, like, freaking out because she could understand their tone.
Yeah.
You can understand somebody's tone even if you don't understand their language.
Yeah. But he's, like, shooting at the ground, making the one-legged guy dance, is what he's saying. He's like, dance, dance, and stuff like that. The guys outside are taking an inventory of everything that they've found. Chris stops giving the one-legged guy a hard time, and then Bunny is like kind of encouraging Chris to kill him, but Chris is not going to do it. He was just angry at that time, so he's like trying to get his anger out without killing him, because as far as Chris knows, nothing has happened. Like, that guy didn't do anything. But Bunny has decided to take it upon himself to kill this guy. So he starts smashing his head in with the butt of the gun.
Yeah. And like Sergeant O'Neill's like trying to get him out of the tent.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go.
Yeah. I will say this entire village sequence is very graphic.
Oh, it is very graphic.
And so they've got everybody outside now. And this is really where you get to, like, the only moment you really get to see Johnny Depp do anything in this movie. And he's the translator. So he's talking to this older man. And they're asking him where the Viet Cong soldiers are. And, like, why they have, because they have some guns and then they have a bunch of rice that he doesn't think that they should have, or at least Sergeant Barnes doesn't think that they should have. So they're translating questions and stuff, and the guy just straight up is like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then the old woman, this old woman, or she's not really old, but she's older, like probably around the same age as the guy that they're questioning, comes up and she's just like yelling, just consistently yelling at all these soldiers because they won't leave, my guess is her husband, they won't leave him alone. And so Sergeant Barnes just like pulls out his gun and, well, not even pulls it out, just lifts it up and shoots her in the head.
Yeah.
Straight up.
And you see it too. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That happened.
And let me tell you, people always give actors a very, very hard time about how they die in movies. I'm going to say this is one of the best deaths I have ever seen. Because she literally just falls over.
Yeah, that's it.
And it makes it even better because she's not even an actress.
No,
I'll
falls over.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that. You might already know, but I don't think anybody else really knows. But about that later, about her.
Okay.
So Elias shows up because, he was in the tunnel off chasing other people. But he shows up and stops him because at this point, Barnes is threatening the little girl that was screaming because he's guessing, as are the rest of us, that is the man and the woman that's dead. It's their daughter.
He's not dead.
No, I'm talking the woman that's dead, not the man. The man isn't dead.
You just said the man dead.
The man and the woman that is dead. So the woman. I just said it wrong.
Okay, I was like, it sounds wrong.
The way I said it was wrong, but what I meant is right.
Okay, I gotcha now.
Because the man is alive, the woman is dead, and that's their kid.
There we go.
So he's threatening that man and woman's daughter, and Elias shows up and stops him, and they kind of start fighting about it. And
it's like fist fight, literally.
Yeah. The lieutenant steps in and starts giving orders. He hasn't done anything to this point, and now he's going to be stepping in and giving orders.
And he says, the captain says to just burn the village.
Yep. So they start torching it. They just burn everything, and they take everybody that's there. They take them all with them. As they're leaving, Chris notices that some of the guys are over there taking advantage of some of the younger women from the village. They're like right in the edge of the jungle, taking advantage of them. And
of course
Chris goes over there and stops them.
Yeah, because really?
But they get back to the big camp, like where a lot of the other soldiers are and stuff, and where the captain is at. And he's like talking to all the sergeants and the lieutenant, saying that they're going to have to fill out reports about what happened to determine if the shooting was legal or not. And then we get kind of a political conversation between Junior, King, Big Harold, and one other guy, but I don't remember which one it was. But there was 4 of them there. They were like, it was like a little political conversation while I think Junior was stacking sticks. I just wrote 4 guys stacking sticks, so I don't remember exactly what the conversation was. I know it was political. And I remember which characters it was.
There's also Chris is talking with Elias too.
Yeah, that's right after the sticks thing.
And Elias is saying, he's like, I used to believe in this, but I don't anymore.
Yeah. And we also get a little glimpse of Sergeant Barnes and Lieutenant Wolf talking about how nothing's going to come of the shooting. Like, there's no way Elias is going to prove that the shooting that Barnes did was illegal. So it's kind of all in this same little segment there. It's just all real quick, kind of short conversations. And we also get in the Elias and Chris conversation, Elias thinks that they're going to lose the war.
It's like they need to lose the war.
Yeah.
It's like, I would agree.
Yeah. And then they're walking through the jungle again, and we get the narration letter to Grandma about how it's like a civil war within the company. And how there's some people on Elias's side and some people on Barnes' side. And they're just like fighting amongst each other about it. And so they're walking through the jungle with this narration. And
in the rain.
Yep. In the rain again.
It's always raining, I feel like.
Yeah. But then they get ambushed because they weren't paying attention. And this is where Candyman gets shot. The actor that plays Candyman. I'm trying to find his name in this movie.
And while you're looking, as I was watching this, I was like, I recognize Lieutenant Wolf from something. I'm like, what is he from? And then I remembered. I just found it. I was like, I think that's what he's from. He was in one episode of The Golden Girls. That's how I remember him. I was like, I know that actor from something else.
So, Warren is the guy that plays... Tony Todd is the actor that plays Candyman. His name in this movie is Warren.
Oh, okay.
He's in some other things, too. But Candyman is immediately what I thought of when I saw him. So that's what I referred to him as the entire time.
It works.
I mean, you know who I'm talking about, so.
Yeah.
But he gets shot, and this is kind of like this big, huge battle within this movie. It's like a big point in this movie. Elias is talking about how he wants to flank them because he has this plan of taking just a couple of men with him and going and flanking the enemy because they won't expect it.
Which is a good strategy.
Yeah. Oh, and also right before, because they're walking through the jungle and they come into like that clearing, and right before the Candyman gets shot, so right before Warren gets shot, Lerner, which is Johnny Depp's character, gets shot. He's the first one to get shot, and then it's Warren, and then the whole big firefight breaks out.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I had to rewind for a minute because I was like, I'm pretty sure that was Johnny Depp because he's so young in this one, but because we had just watched him in A Nightmare on Elm Street, it was easier for me to pick him out. And so I did notice that he was the first one to get shot in that ambush, and then Candyman. And as Elias is talking about how he wants to go do the, like, flanking them, there's 4 men. Somebody says 4 men are down already. So Warren, Lerner, and then 2 others that they don't name right now. And I don't know if we ever get the name of them. So. But Lieutenant Wolf is like calling in a bomb strike on their position. And he calls it in wrong and gives the wrong like coordinates or something. So it ends up the bombing guys are bombing their own men.
Yeah.
Because it's too close where he called the strike. And Sergeant Barnes is like getting super mad about it, which is understandable. He's literally getting his own men killed, so it's understandable that he's pissed off. And at this point, as the bombs are going off and stuff, Elias gets his little small team together and takes them to go flank the enemy. And then Sergeant Barnes has decided that he is going to pull everyone back. It's going to be a full retreat. So he's calling everyone back. And it seems like for a minute that they're just going to completely abandon Elias and his little team that he's taken. But they do end up going and getting them.
Well, Barnes does.
Yeah, Barnes goes and gets them. But before Barnes gets to them, the Elias has left and gone out on his own, but the other 3 guys stay there, and they are able to kill 3 people. But Crawford gets shot. He's just another character in there. There's just so many of them. Sometimes it's hard to keep them all straight.
I don't keep them straight, so good for you, Kat.
There's just a few of them that, because I recognize their faces, I was able to keep them straight just by calling them specific things.
And it's like, because I know what is Forrest Whitaker's character, Big Harold, he gets his, he trips a wire.
Yeah.
In this part, too.
Yeah. But Sergeant Barnes gets over there, and he's able to pull the 3 guys back. And Chris is saying that he needs to go get Elias, and he's like, well, I'll go get him. Well, he doesn't even really say that. He's just like, makes it seem like they're going to leave Elias. But then Barnes ends up going to get him. And so they kind of come across each other. And I thought this part was maybe just shot wrong, because we see Elias running through the jungle, like shooting back at the people, and then he comes around the tree and sees Barnes, and all of a sudden his gun is like down in a position where it's impossible for him to have just been shooting. So I think they just messed up the editing a little bit there. That's one thing I did notice. But,
okay.
Yeah, he just like comes around this tree after having shot through all these other, like shot as he was running, and then he just all of a sudden comes around the tree and his gun is down and like not ready to shoot. And I'm like, wait a second.
I swear I watched this movie. But you're so nitpicking at it. I'm like, did I even watch this at all?
But Elias like sees Barnes and he's kind of relieved a little bit. It looks like to me, anyways.
Yeah, that's what I got to.
He sees Barnes, but then Barnes shoots him.
Well, and then Elias realizes what he's gonna do.
Yeah,
because it's like it goes like almost like a close up of Elias's face. It's like his eyes get bad because he realizes what he's gonna do, what Barnes is gonna do.
Yeah.
Chris goes back to get Barnes and Elias. Yeah. And Barnes is like, they got him. They shot him. And then just like walk away. I'm like, you're not gonna get your own dude.
Well, that's what I was curious about too, and so I did some research on that type of thing. And because they were in a full retreat, if they're in a full retreat, they don't get their dead. They leave them. Because they're just all trying to book it back to safety. That's why they didn't go get him.
Did they go get him afterwards?
I don't know. I feel like no, because even now we're still getting people back that died in Vietnam.
I still think that's bullshit.
I do too, but it's a matter of one dead person versus you losing your whole battalion because you need to go get that one dead person. You've got the entire enemy coming at you.
But he wasn't dead.
But Sergeant Barnes said that. That's the thing is, Sergeant is over whatever rank Chris is. So if he says something, then they have to go.
But Chris still doesn't believe him.
No, Chris doesn't believe him at all. He's like trying to get other guys to go take down Barnes.
By helicopter. And you're seeing the helicopter, and everyone's flying, out like with the helicopters, and you see Elias trying to get back. And he's got people behind him and everything, and he's just running. He's like hurt and everything, and that's a pretty famous scene too.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that scene. I've never seen this movie, but I know that scene. Because he's holding his arms up in the air and everything, and yeah.
Because he does, after Elias dies, getting chased by all those enemies. Like, the choppers are able to shoot at those enemies, but not in time to save Elias. But Chris looks over at Barnes very suspiciously because he's like, well, you said he's dead. And then that's when we get Chris talking to Raw, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Talking about how they need to go after Barnes. And they're in the smoke hut, so they need to go after... So he's, like, talking about how they need to get Barnes for what he did to Elias. And then Raw's like, we can't. He's unkillable. Like, have you seen the amount of bullet hole scars are in him? Like, there's no way to kill him. And at the end of that conversation, it, like, turns over to the doorway, and Barnes is, like, leaning against the wall, drinking his stuff. And he comes in talking about how... to me, it seemed like a very, very bad guy speech.
It was.
But it's just, he's talking about all this stuff about how he's reality and how he knows what it's like to be a killer and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You've already killed 2 people in this movie. Good job. And that's just in the movie.
It's like, there's way more, probably.
Yeah. And that's not counting the ones that he killed in firefights. That's the ones I'm counting he just straight up killed.
So after his speech, Chris is just like, comes up to him and just like grabs him.
Yeah.
And just starts fighting him.
Uh-huh.
And then Barnes pulls out this, like, he has Chris down on the ground, he pulls a knife on him.
Yeah. Basically saying that there's nothing that Chris can do.
Yeah, he leaves just a little scratch right below his eye.
Mm-hmm. Then they're flying over this, like, area that was part of a battleground. And then they land over there, and it's like a camp. Because we've got the captain is set up there, and all kinds of stuff. And Lieutenant Wolf is, like, super fed up with all kinds of everything that's going on, so he's, like, trying to talk to the captain about it, and the captain's just like, get your men in check, pretty much. And then Chris is talking to King, I think. Yeah, I think he's talking to King.
Yeah.
And King's, like, asking him about why he's given up his writing. He's like, isn't there anybody for you to write to? Like, your grandma, your parents? Like, isn't there anybody? And Chris is just like, no. And it seems like he's kind of given up hope. And then...
And he just tells, he's like, you just gotta make it out alive. That's all you gotta do.
King's talking about how, what he's gonna do when he gets out. And stuff.
I was like, which is very soon.
Yes, it is very soon. Then we see Junior. He's talking to Barnes and Bunny. He's over there in that area. They're digging their little foxholes, which is their little hidey holes that they can use to attack from. And his feet are so messed up. Like, so gross. So, like, Barnes is, like, poking his feet. And it's just like, how can you even walk? And he's like, what? And that's the thing is, like, Junior can't walk. And so they're like, well, we're gonna just kill you then. And so Junior's like, no, I'll walk. Just let me walk. Just let me live.
And with that, Sergeant O'Neill, he's the one who tells King that he gets to leave.
Yeah. And then he's trying to convince Barnes to let him leave, too. But Barnes is like, no, we need you. We need every man we can get. And I'm just like, well, if you need every man you can get, you just let King go.
Yeah.
Like,
so he's not that important, I guess.
Yeah, I guess not. But the choppers are leaving, and we see, of course, Sergeant O'Neill's like super upset because he's not on the chopper and he thinks he deserves to be on the chopper.
He's like, I got a bad feeling.
Yeah. And then we see the captain, he's like calling in like a strike, or he's calling in something to another team like Bravo 6 or Bravo 3. He said both of those, so I don't know which one he was trying to talk to and which one he was, because that always confuses me. Because they always say like who's calling and who they're calling to, but I don't ever know what order it's in. So I always get confused. But he's like calling to this other team that's out in the jungle like fighting and trying to get information from them, I guess, to figure out where and how to send help to them. And he's like on the little phone with them. And they stop answering for a minute, and then he's like, can you say anything? And then they still just, you kind of hear some jumbly bits, and then you don't really hear anything from the team that the captain is trying to call.
It's like, cause they dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was like, they died. Cause you hear shots through the phone.
Yeah. So then we get this big, huge last battle. And it starts off with, we see the Viet Cong people, the military people for them, are like planning their attack. We see there's like this little hand-drawn map that they drew and like where they're gonna go. And we see them walking, and then all of a sudden we see one of them trips like this line, and it sets off a flare. So then it's just this big, huge firefight.
Yeah.
Everybody's in their little foxholes and stuff and shooting at the enemies coming up. There's just so much that happens in this point.
It's like, there's a lot going on here.
I did notice that Chris and the guy he was with, Francis, end up killing a lot of people in this firefight. Junior gets killed because he's like trying to make a run for it. And Bunny gets killed. And then it does show Sergeant O'Neill for a minute. But he is pretty smart. He covers himself up with a dead body, so when the enemy soldiers look in his little foxhole, they just see the dead body and think that he's dead too, because you can like the angle that we're at, you can't really see anything other than his helmet, but my guess is like they can see his arms or something and just figure he's dead because there's a dead body on top of him.
I was like, that's clever.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever as well. Then we see a couple of suicide bombers get into the main camp where the captain and a lot of the people are, and they run in there. And actually it's kind of in this, not in the movie, but like filming wise, the director, Oliver Stone, is actually in that scene where the suicide bomber, he's the dude on the phone. And then, so he gets blown up in a movie. He had his own little cameo in his movie.
He gets to be blown up. I mean,
yep.
I guess that's a way to go.
Yeah. But the suicide bomber kills everybody that was in that tent, including the captain, because the captain was like in there trying to give orders and stuff. Lieutenant's trying to call for help, but there is no help. And then there's another guy that was in a different tent, and he calls in a bomb drop on their location, like what Lieutenant Wolf did earlier, but on purpose, because at this point they're just trying to get as many of the enemy as they can, and he's just hoping that all of his people are able to get in their little hidey holes and be safe. Which, I mean, it works for the most part.
Yeah.
Oh, we see Barnes like come up behind Chris and like almost kills him. Like you can see the fire in his eyes. It's really cool. It's a really good shot right there.
Yeah, and then there's the planes that come up.
Yeah. It drops a bomb and makes it to where Barnes can't kill Chris because he is now wounded very, very badly.
It seems like the next, like, the morning or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Or, like, really early morning, because it does seem like it's too, like, late, but it's not night anymore. It's that weird morning mist time.
Yeah. And we see a deer. And then it's gone. I was just like, okay.
And so, Chris, he kind of limps over to this huge pile of bodies. It's just a pile at this point.
Yeah.
And he grabs a gun. And he sees Barnes struggling. And Barnes is like, help me. And Chris is like,
Yeah, he shoots him.
And Barnes is like, do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh snap. That's what he does. I mean, he does shoot him and kills him.
Yeah. And then a tank is coming with there's some guys and stuff. And they look over and see the massive pile of bodies and stuff, and then they see Chris sitting there, and they're like, well, can you walk? And he says no. And so they take him away on a stretcher. And then we see Francis, which was Chris's foxhole partner, and he stabs himself in the leg. Which, I understand why he did it, because he wanted to get out, and that, honestly, getting hurt is literally the only way out at that point, so he's just stabs himself in the leg.
He's like, screw it.
Yeah. And then we see Sergeant O'Neill. He is still alive as well. And he's come back to the new camp. And they've got this mass grave kind of thing. And they're just shoving all the bodies in there, throwing all the bodies in there. And Sergeant O'Neill is given command of a new little group. And because he thought he was going to get to go home, but now he has to stay there longer because he's given command.
He's like,
And you can see it on his face and stuff. But Chris and Francis, because they are both injured, get to leave. So they're being taken out of the war zone back to a hospital, I'm presuming. But you get to see, like, an aerial shot of all the dead. Which is a ton of people. And then we get, like, the narration over that of Chris's last letter to Grandma. And then it's... Well, he says goodbye, kind of, too. Like, waves to his friend, Ron, or whatever his name is. The guy with the gun and the big stick. He's, like, banging his chest and stuff. He says goodbye to him. As they're, like, flying off, he, like, waves goodbye and stuff. And then that's pretty much it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
I will say, I really liked the way they did these end credits, because it was kind of like an obituary a little bit. Like, showing their picture with the name of the actor, but then also the name of the character. Because it just, like, showed, like, a picture from the movie. Which I thought that was kind of a cool way to do it. Because most of the time, the end credits are just, like, they just roll. Like, it's just the black screen with stuff. So, the music for this is by George Delarue. He is a French composer. He is known for The Day of the Dolphin from 1973, Twins from 1988, and Contempt from 19... '63, which is a French movie. And the very first thing he ever worked on was in 1927, and it was The Prince of Adventures, which I believe is another French film.
Huh.
Because I did look at it, and it had like 127 votes on it. So it's not very popular, it's old, and it's French, so that makes it really hard for people to watch it. But he has won an Oscar. He was nominated for quite a few. The only one that he did win was for Best Music Original Score for A Little Romance in 1979. I will say overall the score was pretty good, like it worked well. My only problem with the music in this was they kept repeating that one song over and over.
They did that on purpose.
I know, but it was irritating me. I just don't like it when you just repeat one song over and over. It irritates me.
I was like, you already had your rant about that at 8.5. So.
Yeah. But other than that, like the first time they played that one song, I liked it and it was good. But then they kept playing it. And I was like, But other than that, I liked all the music.
Yeah, I liked it. I really did.
Fit really well. And it made it really suspenseful. Like, this isn't a suspense genre movie. Like, that's not the genre that it's in. But the way that the music was done, it portrayed it. Like, there were certain situations where it was made out to be suspenseful, and I liked that a lot. Comparison. Like we said earlier, well, the consensus, the critics' consensus, this is based on Oliver Stone's time in Vietnam, because he was a soldier in Vietnam.
Yes. So
a lot of the stuff that happened actually happened to him. The one, like, major thing I can really think of off the top of my head after having looked at stuff, that scene where he's, like, shooting at the ground at the feet of the guy that only has the one leg.
Mm-hmm.
He actually did do that, but the guy was not a one-legged guy. He actually had two legs. But he said he was just, like, so angry and fed up and just needed to get some anger out, but he didn't want to kill the guy, and that was the next best thing to do, is just, like, shoot at the ground in front of him.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. He's like, if you're trying not to kill him, but you're trying to get all your anger out, that's probably one of the best ways to do it in war. But the other part of that scene is Bunny smashing that guy's face in. That did happen, but it wasn't at that time. So for the movie, they combined the two events.
Okay.
But they were two completely different events. And then the other one that I can think of is, like, when they were at their big base camp, like, with the barracks and stuff, like, at their military base, there was the two different groups that, like, segregated themselves. There was the drinkers, and then there was the smokers. Like, that really happened. But that's all I can think of comparison-wise to his actual life in Vietnam, like what actually happened, because this is all based on his own stuff. He wrote all of this based on things that happened to him in Vietnam. So, trivia. I did say the one earlier, and then I do have one more.
Go ahead.
So, they filmed this in the Philippines, like we said at the beginning. But what they did to get all of the Vietnamese people in the movie is they just got Vietnamese tourists that were in the Philippines and coerced them into being in this movie. So that woman that gets shot in the head in the little village, she was literally just a Vietnamese tourist in the Philippines and had no acting experience at all.
Oh.
But she did a really good job.
Yeah. I was like, that's crazy.
She was just on vacation and did that, so. I think that's all I've got from the trivia, though.
I don't got too much. I do like this one. This one makes complete sense. They did have to go through a 2-week basic training, like boot camp.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So they'd have the military haircuts, you know, eat military rations. They weren't allowed to shower. They had to sleep in the jungle. They even had night watch. So
I was gonna say, it makes sense because wasn't the whole filming of this like 90 days and almost all of it was spent in the jungle?
Exactly.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. I was like, I just thought that was a cool part for sure.
So for our podcast, I forgot to do this the last 2 movies, or last 2 episodes, so I'm going to make sure I do it this time. The year this came out, so far the only other movie that we have had from 1986 is Stand By Me. So far, we're 2 for 2 on 1986 movies.
Yeah.
Doing good with those.
I've liked both of them.
Yeah. And then, votes-wise, this is in the 355,000 votes range, and the only other movie that was in that range was The Princess Bride.
And I love The Princess Bride.
Yeah, that's another good movie, so.
It's in good company.
But that's that. So, where it has been on the list before and where it is at today when we are recording. In 2010, it was number 144. In 2012, it was number 144. In 2014, it was number 172. 2016, it was number 186. 2018, it was number 190. And as of today, when we are recording, it is number 208.
Oh, it's slipping.
It is. And I think it's slipping because there are so many other war movies.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the newer ones have better technology. So I think, honestly, that's really what it is. It's just the better technology and the fact that this is a little bit older. So I feel like that's what a lot of these movies, like why they're falling off the list, is newer movies are just killing it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can.
I really wish this wasn't falling off of the list because I think it's really good and I think it's also a movie that everybody should see.
I agree with you. I do.
But previously, number 187, the 2010 list, The Princess Bride from 1987. The 2012 list, Gandhi from 1982. The 2014 list, Amores Perros from 2000. The 2016 list, Star Wars The Force Awakens from 2015. Because that movie had just come out, that's why. The 2016 list, The Truman Show from 1998. And as of today when we are recording, Sherlock Jr. from 1924.
Huh.
Yeah, so that movie is going down, Sherlock Jr., because it's a little bit higher on our list. So, let me look. On our list, it's like... I want to look. It's number 152, so it's dropped quite a bit. 35. But yeah, so there's that. So, favorite line?
I have a few. Take a break. You don't have to be a prick every day of your life. That one just made me laugh. Everybody gotta die at some point.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that one down, too.
This is from the very end. We did not fight the enemy, we fought ourselves, and the enemy was in us.
Yeah, I wrote that one down, too. So I think I have a couple other than those that you said. The poor are always being fucked over by the rich. Always have, always will. We've been kicking people's asses for so long. I figure it's time we got ours kicked. And then the only other one I had that you didn't say was shoot anything that moves. But I think either everybody's got to die sometime or we didn't fight the enemy.
I like that we did not fight the enemy one.
Okay, can you read it again?
We did not fight the enemy, we fought ourselves, and the enemy was in us.
All right. So what is your rating?
I gave this an 8.
Okay.
Like I said, I really liked this movie. It did. Some great acting in there. Why am I taking... It just fit with my other 8s. Like, it didn't fit with the 7s. It didn't fit with the 9s. It fit with the 8s more.
Yeah.
That's how it feels for me. And, I actually thought it was a decent length. I didn't think it was too long. So, I don't know. It just fit better with the 8s. That's my only reasoning.
I'm giving it an 8 as well. Because I agree. I couldn't really put it with my 7s or my 9s. So I was just like... And then there was a few of my 8s that I liked better than it. But then there was also a few of my 8s that I didn't like quite as much. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. We're going to put it in with the 8s then.
Just stick it in there. It's fine.
I do have my reasoning, though. Like the song that kept being repeated. That just really bothers me. Then at the end with the plane flyover, I feel like they should have just done the sound and not the visual. Because I felt like the visual was kind of bad.
Okay. That makes sense.
It looked like somebody just did a little toy plane and strung it over the camera. Honestly, I was like, wow, this is bad. But that was honestly like one of the only parts of the movie that just kind of took me out of it. Other than Charlie Sheen's hair. I don't know why it was bothering me so much, but from like that first rainstorm in the movie throughout the entire rest of the movie, I was like, how in the world do you get your hair to stay like that in the jungle when I can't even get my hair to stay the way I want it for 20 minutes?
It's like, I'm not going to have a good hair day. We're just going to tie it up.
I just put a hat on, so I've given up on my hair. But those were a couple of things that, they weren't like major things. They were just a couple of minor nitpicks. The most major one was the song being repeated a few times and the plane at the end. I feel like if they had just done the sound, it would have been more effective. Because we would have understood that that's a plane.
Yeah.
We know what a plane sounds like. But, I mean, this is a really well done movie. Like you said, even though it's a 2-hour movie, it does not feel like it because it's so action-packed. There's something happening the entire time.
Yeah, and I'm not even like a big action person either. I'm not. But this was just, it was a good amount for me.
I feel like there's kind of a difference between just straight action movies, like the Bourne movies, and then war movies.
I can handle war movies. I can.
War movies seem to me to have more of a purpose than movies like the Bourne movies. Because I feel like war movies are more, like, educational and you can actually take something from it. Whereas, like, Bourne and Fast and Furious, those movies are just pure entertainment factor. Like, there's not really a lot you can, like, sustenance you can take from it. There's just people that really enjoy them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, people can enjoy those movies all they want. It's just not necessarily for you.
Oh, hell no. Especially the Bourne movies. Oh, my God. Those things, ugh. Ugh. It's like the same movie 3 times over. We get it. I mean, it's kind of how the Fast and Furious movies are, too.
Yeah. But I did really like this movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I do.
I was thoroughly entertained by it, which is a good thing. So, our next film is The Passion of Joan of Arc from 1928. So, this is a black and white film. This is a silent film, and it's also French.
Yeah, I told Kat about that, and I was like, that is not going to be easy to find with English subtitles, especially since there's no talking. But yeah. I managed to find a copy. So, we'll see how it goes.
But yeah, so... And I'm pretty sure that one's kind of long, too, for it being a silent film.
I think it's like an hour and a half or something. I don't remember quite how long it is.
Let's see.
I was like, please look it up, because I was about to.
It is an hour and 54 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's long for a silent film. That's really long for a silent film, actually.
So we'll see. So yeah, that will be out next week. Passion of Joan of Arc from 1928. Our next event coming up is our holiday event, and that will be coming out at the end of December. I haven't quite decided how we're going to release that one yet, but we'll figure it out. The 2 movies that I picked are Babes in Toyland and Krampus.
And I picked Santa Claus is Coming to Town and The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes. So, those will be fun. And it's actually kind of cool because the day that we are recording this is The Nightmare Before Christmas 26th birthday.
It is, that's right.
I saw that today. I was like, oh, yay.
I was like, Nightmare Before Christmas! One of the best movies ever.
It's
so,
a great movie.
I'm like, yay.
So, yeah. Make sure you check that out. And if you haven't listened to our Halloween episodes yet, make sure you check those out as well. I think we picked some great movies for that. We are offering premium. If you would like to become a premium member, you just go to our website, catandjusttalkthebest.podbean.com. And it's over on the right side. Kind of scroll down a little bit. There are 2 options. The first option is $1 a month. You will get uncut episodes, early release episodes, and a special monthly episode. And then the next level is $5 a month. And you will get all of that $1 a month stuff. Plus, you will be able to join us for a movie of your choice every 50 movies. So, if you would like to become a premium member, please do that. It helps us pay for the website, which is greatly appreciated if you are able to do that. Our special monthly episode for November is going to be 2 actors. We each picked an actor that we like from our list so far. I picked Jake Gyllenhaal.
And I picked Hugh Jackman.
So we will talk about them, give our insight on how we think they've impacted media, film, and stuff. So, and also give a little information that some people may or may not know. So check that out in November, premium members. If you cannot become a premium member, you can always leave us ratings and reviews. Ratings help us get noticed by more people and more listeners, and reviews help us know what we could do better and what you guys like. So those are both greatly appreciated. Also, sharing the show with your friends is greatly appreciated as well. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or you can email us however you would like to get into contact with us. We will respond at some point.
I like that, at some point, when we get around to it. If we feel like it.
When I notice that I have an email or a notification on Twitter, because sometimes I don't notice. Our music is by Audio Berenger, and you can find him on Facebook, YouTube and his website, audiobinger.net. So until next time, thank you all so much for listening. We do greatly appreciate it. And we will catch you with The Passion of Joan of Arc. Bye.
Bye.